Alright, so we have our project created, our background color created, our subordinate image, and now we're going to place our dominant image. And you might notice too, the music, we started with drums when we were working on the background, we added some bass in when we were working on the subordinate image, and now with our dominant image we have our lead guitar coming in. So I'm trying to create for you the analogy that building an image or a poster like this is a lot like a band. There's certain parts and pieces that layer together to create a whole sound. So now we're going to look at placing the dominant image. Go ahead and go into Photoshop. Now, I've already clipped this for the sake of time. Once again, if you want to review how to clip, you can go back and watch that video again. We talked about using the polygonal lasso tool, we talked about using the magic wand, and we talked about using the marquee tool to remove information. One thing you're going to notice here, this was shot on the green screen. You're going to see a little bit of green that bleeds onto the helmet, and also you're going to see right here the source light. In order to get the face lit up, we used a little source light from underneath. So backlit with a backlight or a hair light to give that nice shadow, and then a small fill light was right there. You could also use a reflector to bounce that in. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to place this in our project. So we're going to go back to our project, and we're going to add a new layer, because remember, we want to do everything in a separate layer so we can work on that individual thing. I'm going to come right down here and click on this button, which is to add a new layer. You could also come up to layer, new layer right there. So with my layer selected, I'm going to double click on it, DOM image or dominant image, so I can keep track of which layer is which. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to come back over to my picture using the marquee tool, the second one down, the rectangle. I'm going to select the square, Command C, go back, make sure my new layer is highlighted, Command V. Click on my arrow tool. Once again, we need to make this bigger, so we're going to go up to Edit, go to Transform, Scale, and then we're going to work on just holding the Shift button so it scales equally. I'm going to scale it out till we get out the approximate size we want. We want a little bit of the head to disappear. We're going to want a little bit of the body to blend in. So probably somewhere in that neighborhood right there to start with. I can always go back and scale it a little bit more. Hit apply, and notice it's no longer pixelated. And I can go ahead and I can kind of drag that around where I want it. Now, we have a problem here though. This layer is over that one. Very easy. We can grab our dominant image layer, click and hold, and drag it underneath our subordinate image. And now the subordinate image is popping out in front of the dominant image. Okay, so the dominant image, we want to do a little bit of work to that to make it blend. First of all, I'm going to work on my placing a little bit. I have a little bit showing right there, but that's going to get feathered out. I think it looks good to have the helmet just disappearing a little bit, and I want to make sure I have it just about centered right there. Now we want to feather the dominant image in. We're going to blend it. You can go back and review the blending for a little bit more step-by-step process. I'm going to click on a layer mask. I'm going to come over here to gradient, the gradient tool, and then I'm just going to blend that a little bit. Gives it a little bit of fade to the back. Okay. Now I want to add a little bit of a. Well, I actually want to blend that a little sharper, so I'm going to come right here. And again, if you want to see specifically, you can turn off everything else and just work on the layer you're working with. So you can blend from here up and see the difference between that and starting right here and going up the way the two work. You find what works best for you. I think I want the motorcycle helmet to be just above the blend. Still crooked on that one. Probably a little steeper than I want. That's not bad, but I need something to help it kind of jump out a little bit more. So I'm going to click on the image. I'm going to add a gradient to it. So we're going to click on the gradient up here. We're going to select the transparency gradient. I'm going to select the color. And for the color, I'm going to pick one of these kind of dark blues. Lighten it up just a little bit here. Hit OK. And a little bit of a gradient blend to help that. Go ahead, hit OK. Now if we add in our background, we'll start to see that we need to work on the blending a little bit more. So go back to the dominant image, back to my gradient, and just clean it up a little bit. Get a little bit more fade on it. There we go. That's popping out a little bit. I can see that a little bit of that slice right there. So I'm going to drop this image down a little bit, and now we have the two blended together nicely. One thing I want to do though to help this stand out, like the post you've seen, all the bright sharp blues are really not getting much contrast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through the image, the color adjustments. I'm going to choose curves. Actually, I want to desaturate a little bit and go up to image adjustments. Oh, here we go. Reason. I need to make sure I have my image, not my layer mask selected. That was my problem. I have my layer mask, not my image selected. Come here to image, to adjustment, hue saturation. That's what I'm looking for. So my saturation, if I desaturate it completely, it looks black and white. I get great contrast. But if we go about halfway, you see if we desaturate this image a little bit, we get a little bit of a what we call color coding, where it's desaturated a little bit. The silvers and the blues kind of stand out. We get that nice contrast between this rider and that one back there. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And one more thing I want to do, I want to add a little bit of a drop shadow, again, to the dominant image. So I have the dominant image selected, drop shadow. And what I'm going to do with the drop shadow, I'm going to just give it a little bit more distance and see it off the back corner of the helmet right here. If I increase the spread and the size, you can probably see it a great deal. We don't want anything like that, though. It's a little too much. So take the spread down, bring the distance out a little bit, bring the opacity down quite a bit on it. And what we're looking for is just move back in a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit of shadow there. And you're going to notice I'm picking up some pieces right here. That's something I failed to clip out, so that's easy to fix. I can take my rectangle tool. Should be able to delete those right out. Now get rid of that rogue drop shadow. There's probably a piece up above here, so if I just grab my image real quick and drag it down for a second, grab the marquee tool, I should be able to get rid of any of that. Then go ahead and drag it back in place. Again, I want to make sure the clipped portion on the bottom is just hidden. I use my arrows, up and down arrows to refine that. Put it about center. And now we've placed our dominant image. We've put a gradient fade on it. We've, again, let's go back one more time to the gradient color. We didn't finish doing that. So I'm going to click on gradient. I want to add some gradient color to the image. Just going to add a little bit of blue to it. To get it to stand out a little bit more. You can decide if you like it better with or without additional color. That's a matter of taste on that one. You may like to have just a little bit of that glow, whatever you think helps the rider here stand out a little bit more. So now we've placed our dominant image that we had already clipped. We added some gradient fade to it, we've added some gradient color to it, and we've desaturated. We've added a little bit of drop shadow, just a light drop shadow right here to give it some depth. And so what we should start to get is kind of a separation between the three layers.